Hey guys, coming back for American Crime Story, The People versus O.J Simpson, episode 2, The Run of His Life, and I could not wait for this episode. Last week's premiere was such a great surprise. I was so happy with the way last year's premiere, not last year, I mean last week's premiere turned out. I mean, like I said, I really feel they already established a lot of what the characters are going to be on the show, what the show is truly going to be like, and this episode, I didn't think was as strong as the first episode. I definitely thought there were some very strong moments in this episode. It was still a great episode. I really did enjoy it, and it made sense why this episode needed to be the way it was. I mean, this is an event that we've already seen portrayed, and this was basically just seeing everyone's reaction to it, which I really love seeing, and really made me, I think, like the characters even more than I already did. But let's get into this episode because I really did enjoy it, and obviously, I really want to talk about it. Now, this episode pretty much, the entire episode is pretty much all about, Simpson's on the run, and here is how they stop him and bring him to justice, because obviously they want to bring him to justice. We see right away that Rob is praying about Simpson and tells God to look after him, protect him. He's in pain and doesn't know what he's doing. And I gotta say, Rob, I think, is going to end up being one of the most sympathetic characters on the show. I mean, he just wants to help out his friend, and he just wants him to do right. He doesn't really want to do anything bad. He doesn't really see, Simpson as a criminal. This is someone he's grown up with for a while, and it just is a really nice scene. It's a good way to start the episode, but it also shows how scared Rob really is. I mean, the last time he saw Simpson, obviously, it was suicidal, and he doesn't know if he still is, or even if he's alive right now. So Shapiro's on the phone with the DEA. Gil asks what he wants. He says he wishes he could strangle him with the phone, and obviously, they're really upset. I mean, like Marcia said, they look like morons after this, and Shapiro says that he's sorry. Simpson did this to them since he usually is a fixer of things, and Gil asks how he let him get away. Shapiro says he didn't know he was going to run and says he has to believe him. He is the good guy, reminds him of times he helped them, including his 50th birthday, and I like finding out how close Shapiro is, with the LAPD. I definitely like seeing that. Gil says to find Simpson, deliver him, and hangs up the phone, and Gil in this episode, I mean, Gil has a reason to be a dick in this episode. I mean, Gil is a dick in this episode, but he has every right to be. I mean, he's frustrated, he is angry, this is something that he needed to get done, and it makes sense why he is in such so erratic throughout this entire episode. So Rob comes out, asks Shapiro if he has a minute. Shapiro offers him a drink. They sit down, and Rob shows Shapiro Simpson's suicide note. And obviously, you knew that was going to come into play at some point, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Shapiro asks who the hell signs a suicide note with a happy face, which, again, that is very strange that Simpson would do that. And we see everyone then watching news about Simpson getting away and the manhunt that is following him. And Gil asks if they could look more incompetent. He says this is the worst day of his life, worse than when he was diagnosed with cancer. Again, very small detail, but still very important, just as compelling, I think, just knowing he was diagnosed with cancer. Marcia says it's Shapiro's fault that he screwed all of them, and Gil says that the famous cases are always shut down. He doesn't understand why they're shut down. And I talked about this before. I think a big part of the show is going to be how the police treat celebrities. They don't really treat celebrities like they treat regular criminals because they don't want to ruin that celebrity's reputation and don't want fans to get angry of them, obviously. That's really what's going on, and I find that whole thing to be very interesting. And it very much is true. I mean, we hear things about celebrities and things they've done, but they don't really get, I think, a fair trial. They basically are either, proven guilty or, proven not guilty at all, or they're just sent away because the police just don't want to really do anything. And it's clear that the DEA does want to do something, and I like seeing that. So we see the police hot on the trail after Simpson and many news trucks following them, trying to get coverage. And throughout this entire episode, we see that. I mean, it really is crazy. Lang's reading over several cards of people suspecting where Simpson is. Some say that he might be at the cemetery. Some people might say he might be in his mom's. I mean, no one really knows where he is. Van Adder says they have to weed out the crackpot, so they need to make sure they put down the year and plate of the white Bronco. Because obviously, if they know what the year and the license plate is, that's how they're going to find out which white Bronco is Simpson's, obviously, because that's what they need to find. I mean, white Broncos aren't hard to find, and one of the most, reminiscent things of O.J. Simpson's, trial was, of course, the white Bronco. And basically, we then see many kids at the gravestones of Nicole and Goldman. It's a very sad scene, just seeing everyone gathered around. And we then see the white Bronco go to it, then drive away. It's clear that this is Simpson and AC that's in the Bronco, and that is how the episode starts. So I thought that was a great way to start it, and I really enjoyed that. Marcia then asked for information on AC, see Bill tries to give her information, but Gil quickly shuts him up. He doesn't want to hear about it. He doesn't care about the information. All he cares about is getting Simpson back to the station, getting him to comply to their demands, and that's all he wants, because they've already screwed up. This is already a really shitty day for him, and he doesn't want to be disturbed. And I understand why, again, I understand why Gil is so upset with this. He has a right to be. So they then go to a press conference, and Gil says that Simpson is a fugitive of justice, and if any of them assist him in any way, they're committing a felony, and they personally guarantee that they will be questioned. And obviously, that is a problem, and I like what Gil's saying. I mean, what Gil is saying is true, that Simpson is this fugitive, and that he's not someone that should be, there's nothing he did that was justified. They don't have proof they did anything, that he did anything good and that he didn't do it, so they're just going to assume that he did it, and I find that part to be very interesting as well. And that's a big part of this. I mean, definitely a big part of this episode is seeing how everyone portrays this, because we see Johnny and his staff watching it. One of the members asks if he wants him to turn off the TV, because again, this is very much like the Taylor family, and I really like that we saw the Taylor family last week, because it showed how Johnny reacts to these kind of cases, especially ones involving, as he calls them, black folk. How he says that. The difference is with Simpson is that I think they have genuine reasons as to why they should target Simpson. But I do like the way that Johnny's looking at this, that, the police are so, corrupted, and they're so convinced that black people are these terrible people that they don't really give them a say. And basically, Johnny said it's fine and let them watch because something big is happening there. Darden gets home, asks his dad if the TV's on. He says it is, but it's on a golf game, which I thought was honestly pretty funny. And Darden immediately switches to the news, and Darden says that Gil looks horrible, Marcia's dying up there, and just the small word from his dad of him saying you know him, again, really shows how interesting of a character Darden really is. Like I said, Darden is a guy that's not respected at his job. Nobody really seems to want his help, or he can't really get involved with anything, but he definitely knows the pain that Marcia and Gil are going through. He knows them. They just don't really need his help. I think eventually Darden is going to get involved. I just don't know in what capacity, because like I said, I know absolutely nothing about this trial, which I'm going to stay that way. I'm not going to find out what happened, except the fact, of course, what the final verdict was. That's all I really know, though. But basically, he says it is, but it's on a golf game, which Darden immediately switches to the news, and all the questions Gil are given, he can't really answer, because the questions are, how does Simpson feel? I mean, these are personal things that Gil can't really answer, and I like seeing Gil very vulnerable here. It doesn't show Gil as this cocky guy that just knows everything. He is just as confused as everyone else is. He wants answers just like the public does, and he is very confused as to what's going on there. So basically, his dad asks him if, Darden's dad asks if he will get away, and Darden says he humiliated them in his dead meat, and I like the way that Darden's looking at this, because he's not looking at this like Johnny is. He sees this as Simpson has a right, to be arrested, and Simpson has a right to be accused. I mean, he did not follow their orders, which I think were pretty fair. I mean, all they wanted to do was arrest him, bring him in for questioning, and then send him home. That's what they were going to do. They were going to place him in a jail and give him a fair trial, but they were going to give him a fair trial. I mean, I think what they were going to do was pretty fair. Obviously, Simpson didn't want that because he's very damaged right now, but Shapiro does not like the subtext, because he thinks that there's an unspoken villain there himself. He thinks everyone is blaming him, which we can definitely tell they are. I mean, we know how Johnny felt about him, and we know how Marcia feels about him. It really seems like he has his bad reputation, which, Shapiro says a very clean reputation, and I think that's in Shapiro's eyes. That in Shapiro's eyes, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing, and that everyone thinks that he's this good guy, and he says they need their own press conference, which is set up. Shapiro gives the conference and tries to defend himself, showing he is not at fault for this and that he's not the one to blame. Johnny says that he's a prick and is only focused on himself, and I can kind of see Johnny's point. I mean, Shapiro is really just trying to clean up his act, and it's clear that he's not really as focused on Simpson. And he says when they take jobs, they only have one rule, and that is that they must service to their client and to never betray them under any circumstance, which is very interesting. So Shapiro tells Simpson wherever he is to surrender. He then introduces Rob, and then we get this scene. Now, guys, you guys know I told you before, I don't like the Kardashian family. I don't. I think that they're snobby. I think that they're annoying. And this episode should prove to you why. I mean, the way that these children were acting, I felt was kind of making fun of them. I honestly feel like they were trying to poke fun at showing, yeah, the family is this way, and no, it's not, it doesn't seem real what they're doing, but they actually did do this. We see the Kardashian children are overjoyed their father's on TV. They don't even care it's a trial. They're like, oh my god, that's dad. Like, the way they were acting, I honestly feel is how they really acted. And I don't feel like they're trying to portray them as, they're not trying to justify the Kardashians. They're trying to show that, yeah, these people are really stupid and we're going to make fun of it. And I like that. I like that they're making fun of that, definitely. So Rob reads Simpson's suicide note. Marcia can't believe he's basically victimizing himself, calling himself a battered husband, which obviously Simpson's view of this is that he, again, didn't really do anything wrong. And when Rob is asked how to spell his last name, the children cheer their last name. Literally, they're like, Kardashian, Kardashian. And it's just like, I hate this family. I hate this family. I don't watch their shows. This is why I do not like this family. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And did this ruin the episode for me? No, because like I said, I really do feel it's satire, that they're trying to poke fun at this family and show that they're really fucking annoying and show that they think they're like the best thing ever, which it's clear that they do. I mean, think of the million TV shows that have come out about this family. They just don't stop. They keep coming out one by one by one, and it's so annoying. But I feel like this episode really showed that, yeah, this family is annoying, and that's just the point. I feel like they're supposed to be annoying in this, and I thought that scene was actually pretty funny. I mean, just making fun of the Kardashians. If that's something we're going to get every episode, I'm fine with that, because I want to make fun of this family. I think they're annoying, and you can't get me to like them. You can't. I think they're stupid, I think they're annoying, and I think they're snobby. So Shapiro very quickly ends the conference, and after, Rob reads the suicide note, and we then see a couple in a van. This is really when the episode starts to pick up speed. They realize that a white Bronco is behind them. Obviously, they know because of that they want to see Simpson. They immediately call, give his location, and which I thought was a very smart thing to do. I like that they were smart to do that, because obviously they know that the police are hot on the trail, and the police gain on Simpson and tell AC to step out. He tells them that Simpson's in the backseat with a gun to his head, and Simpson makes them leave. The police do absolutely nothing because they realize that there's really nothing they can do. I mean, Simpson is suicidal, which is very interesting. I found out that no one actually knew that Simpson was suicidal here, that Simpson wanted to kill himself in this moment. I mean, when we saw the footage, we only saw the outside of the car. We didn't see what's going on inside the car. That's something that we never saw, of course, on the trial, because that the news can't do that. The news cannot shoot footage inside the car. They just can't do that. You need to shoot like a shot of just the chase that was going on. And yeah, that's very interesting to find out, but just to know what Simpson was going through and that he was this suicidal, I think really makes this so much more fascinating. And honestly, I really am getting into Simpson as a character. Just the way they're portraying him is very interesting. And I've heard they're not portraying Simpson in, the way he actually was. I don't care. I really don't. I think it's mainly because people didn't see Simpson this way. People didn't know that he was suicidal. I think that's why people are complaining, because no one really knew that Simpson was as damaged as he was. And I heard from Ryan Murphy that everything they're saying is true, that he did deep evidence into, he deeply got into Simpson's case, found out what was going on with him, and it's clear that what they're saying is not just something they made up. This actually happened, and it's really crazy. Now, of course, that Simpson isn't going to kill himself, but that doesn't make the episode any less gripping, because you're on the edge of your seat not knowing what's going to happen and what the impact of this could do to everyone. So we see tons of posters supporting Simpson. Rob cries in his car and he's screaming, and a very emotional scene again, because Rob doesn't know if he's dead. And then we get another very hard scene to watch. I think just as effective as the scene we got last week when Simpson's children, were visiting him, when Nicole's daughter didn't realize that her mom died. This was just as emotional. Rob steps into Simpson's house and tells the family that Simpson is in a lot of pain, left a note, and they have a reason to believe that he has killed himself, and he's pretty much believed that he's dead, that basically Simpson took his life, and that's all there is to it. They then see a newscaster say that he is well alive with a gun to his head, and luckily they are relieved. They know he's still suicidal, but just the fact they know he's alive is very good. So Shapiro drives home. Linnell asks where he's been and if he has any idea what's been going on. He says he did a press conference and filled the gas tank, and she tells him that Simpson has been found. The police are after him. Shapiro's glad to see that he's still in the game, and we don't see Shapiro after this. And I thought that was perfectly fine, because this episode's not about Shapiro. It's about the chase on O.J. Simpson. We need to see what's going on at Bronco, because that's stuff we haven't seen before. And Shapiro, though, it's clear that he wants power. He wants the upper hand. He wants to be in control, and he wants to be Simpson's lawyer. And as much as it's, was he a good guy or not, I don't think that's what the show is trying to say. I think it's showing that this is the way that Rob Shapiro was, and this is how he acted, and I think it's very interesting. So we see a newscaster talk about how, despite Simpson's situation, they'll be going on with a basketball game. Despite that, we also see that Domino's pizza sales are rapidly increasing. And if you guys don't know why, mainly because what does Domino's Pizza have? A TV. Everyone wanted to see footage. Nobody would have left because they all wanted to see footage of what was going on. I mean, think about if an event like this was on TV. This entire episode, I was just thinking, it must have been awesome to be alive in the 90s because you got to witness this trial, you got to get into it, you got to think about if this man was innocent or not. I mean, it had to be like one of the big talks of the town. Not just the town, but the world. It had to be one of the big talks of America, and it just really interests me, I have to say. So Marcia says they need to stop him, shoot out his tires, and Gil says they don't want to shoot out on live TV. Obviously, that's not a good idea, because they're on every network on live TV, and Gil asks what the protocol is. Gil says he thought he was going to run for mayor, and you can see that Gil realizes that this isn't going to happen now. So police are chasing after Simpson, and AC asks what he wants him to do. Simpson says that he should die, and AC says to put the gun down, and I like AC, I thought was a much better character here. Like, I really liked his character in episode 1, but he was the one character I'm like, I don't really know about him. But here you really see that he really cares about Simpson. He will do anything to protect him, and he will let anyone that gets in his, he will take down anyone that gets in Simpson's way, and I love seeing that. He's kind of like a brother to Simpson. While Rob is, I think, Simpson's, best friend and confidant, AC really is the brother that Simpson never had. So AC says to put the gun down. Simpson says he's tired of him driving him around. AC says to tell him what he needs. Simpson says to take him to the cemetery, and AC says that they did go by there already, so this proves that the shot we saw at the beginning was in fact Simpson and AC. And Simpson says he doesn't know why this is happening. He had such a beautiful family, and AC says to think about the kids, and basically, think about this. How would your kids be without you? I mean, think about Nicole's kids, how they're gonna have to get by without her, and luckily, they still have Simpson. They still have Simpson, and if he takes his life, then they're gone. And then they are orphans, and obviously they don't want that, and he knows that he doesn't want that either. And Simpson says to take him home to see his mom, and AC furiously calls the police, tells them to leave Simpson alone. They try to get information. Simpson at this point is not even acting rational. He's not, and it makes sense. I mean, he's going through so much. He can't think rationally. He's making horrible decisions. He's saying things that I don't really think he means, and I really like seeing this. It was very realistic. I mean, when something like this happens, you don't act like yourself. You don't. You don't think clearly. You don't make proper decisions, and it could lead you to some very dire things. And that's clearly what Simpson is doing. He's already turning to suicide. It's pretty crazy, really. It's crazy that, again, this all did happen. And I'm not lying when I say this happened. It actually did. So he tells them to leave Simpson alone. They try to get information, but AC says they're going to Brentwood, and basically that's where they're headed. So the broadcasters are told to shut the game down because they don't want to see the game. They want to see footage of what was going on. And I love the scene where we see people in a bar watching the game, all excited and everything. And then when they switch to news, they don't know what the chase is about. But once they hear it, they're drawn into it right away. It's very much like this show. Very skeptical, not really knowing what you're getting into, but it's so compelling you can't help but watch. And I think they did that very well here. Just showing how, gripping and, big of a deal this really was in the news. I think they really emphasize that very well here. I really like seeing that. So Marcia watched the news. She asked Van Adder how Simpson is back in the white Bronco since they impounded it. And Lang says that AC worships Simpson so much that he bought an identical car. And basically, she asked what the situation is. And Van Adder says the SWAT team is taking over. And basically, I thought that was interesting. We found out that they bought an identical car. It would make sense, obviously, so people would stay out of Simpson's hair, and he would be able to get to his mom's house safely, because that's clearly what he wants. And basically, Rob gets a call from Simpson, who lets him know he knows everything, and he knows what's going on, and Simpson says he loves him, he's the best. He recalls, and of course, Simpson doesn't know that he's on TV. He doesn't know all of what's going on, and when Rob tells him, obviously, Simpson's pretty shocked, but I love the scene with Simpson. Cuba Gooding Jr., I think, really is killing in this role. He's doing a great job. I've heard people say he was miscast. No. If anything, Rob Shapiro was miscast, but I don't even think he's that bad. I think everyone really is doing a great job on the show, I have to say. So, this scene I thought was really great. Simpson says he wants to tell everyone he loves them and to say goodbye to him and give them the names of everyone he wants to say goodbye to. And Rob says he's going to tell them himself. And we see them again. Simpson says he just wants to see his mom one last time. He hangs up, and Simpson's son Jason asks if he's going to die. Again, really emotional stuff. Him not knowing what's going on. Johnny watched a tribute video to Simpson. Johnny says the last he heard that Simpson was still alive, and the newscasters say they have to stay ahead. Johnny's on an interview with Gil, and I like the way that Johnny looked at this. I mean, it definitely, he's trying to justify what the police is doing, but because of what's happened in the past, that's why he sees it this way. It has nothing to do with the fact that he thinks is wrong what the police are doing. It's just because of other instances, like Rodney King, like the Taylor family, he just can't see this as a justified conviction. And he says that, Simpson is innocent until proven guilty and feels they're only attacking him because he's black, and very interesting stuff there. So AC gets a call from Lang, again tells him to back off, but Simpson takes it and says he's sorry and didn't mean for the situation to get this bad. And I like the way that Lang talked to him, that Lang understood that Simpson's not really a bad guy, that he's just kind of scared right now, and he really just wants to go home. And Lang says they're just doing their jobs. He says the gun is not for them. He would never hurt any of them, and he says the gun is for himself. Lang says to not do that. He needs to just toss it out the window, and Simpson says he has to do it. There's no one that's going to be able to convince him to not kill himself. He's going to do it. And he has to do it for Nicole. He tried to do it in her grave, but needs to do it at home. And it's clear that he, again, like I said, hasn't gotten over her death. Lang says they're not going to bother him. They know he wants to go home, so they'll let him go. But the gun is scaring everyone and needs to throw it away. But Simpson refuses, says he deserves it. And Darden then sees some neighbors who worship Simpson for his basketball. And Darden disagrees and thinks that Jim Brown was a better player. And also thinks that Jim Brown was better because he cared about their race, while Simpson doesn't. In fact, if anything, he's abandoned them. And they really, and I like what he's saying here, that Simpson abandoned them for the media. He hasn't really gone back to his roots. He doesn't seem to care as much about it, and he seems to care more about the media and what's happened there than he does about his family. He doesn't remember that he is really a black man, and I think it's very interesting that we saw that. So the DEA watched a tribute video that Marcia thinks sounds like a eulogy. She says she wants him to finish this day alive and pay for what he's done. And a bunch of black protesters are cheering, and a newscaster asks why. They say they're simply just booing the LAPD. It has nothing to do with Simpson. They think he did the right thing to run away. And Simpson says this isn't safe what they're doing. AC says they do it because they love him. The SWAT team then goes into Simpson's house, says they need everything off the property for their own safety. But both Jason and Rob refuse to leave, which makes sense. Jason's his son. He's obviously very worried about his dad, and Rob is worried sick about him. I mean, it's literally seems to be, destroying him. They tell him to not get caught in the crossfire. AC sees the protesters blocking the entrance, honks them, but it does nothing. He tells them to move. They run after the Bronco. The police chase after, and just, again, imagine this going on. This is still on live TV, you have to remember. They're still on TV. There are still people trying to get coverage, and Simpson tells AC he has to get him to his house, and he says he's trying. They finally get to the house, and Jason tries to get him to put the gun down. The SWAT team take him. Simpson cries. AC tells him to put the gun down. The police ask Simpson how they can help, and AC says to leave them alone, but the police are sincere, and they kill the lights so no one can see what's going on, which Johnny notices. And I like that Simpson wanted to do this in private. He doesn't want the world to see him get arrested because, again, he doesn't want to see that, that picture. He doesn't want his children to see that picture of him getting arrested. He doesn't want them to think of him that way. So police tell him they want him to get out of the Bronco, want to safely get him into his house, and AC tells him to go. AC tries to talk to him, but then Simpson says he should have killed himself this morning, starts to put the gun into his mouth, pulls the trigger, and then gets a phone call from Rob, tells him to come inside, and informs his mom is there waiting to talk to him. Simpson says he just wants to come inside, and Rob says to come in, and they can sit down and relax, and Simpson apologizes, and Rob says that they just want to make sure that he's safe, and again, very emotional stuff. You don't know what's going to happen here. Simpson apologizes. Rob says they just want to make sure he's safe. Simpson says he doesn't want to be on the TV again. And Rob asks what he needs and tells him to do this in private and to come outside. And basically, they say that he just needs to make sure that the gun stays inside the car, and I didn't know if Simpson was really going to listen to them or not. You don't know. So AC gets out of the car, goes back inside. Simpson gets out, tells the police he's sorry. They quickly see that he does have a gun, but Rob begs them to stop shooting because it's actually just framed pictures of his kids, and it's nothing to be afraid about that he has these pictures, and just showing, that Simpson has these. I mean, this is clear that he was using these to say goodbye to them, and it's really, really sad to watch. He goes inside. Rob helps helps him as he staggers. I mean, Simpson at this point looks like he is about to collapse. I mean, it is crazy. And he sits down, asks to talk to his mom, wants orange juice. He finally gets to talk to his mom, and you can tell that this is the thing that gets Simpson back on his feet. The DEA sees the coverage has finally ended. Marcia says that they are taking him to trial. Darden's friends tell him that it's too bad he's not working on the case, and they believe that Simpson was framed, which Darden guarantees them is not true. He does not think that Simpson's framed. He thinks that Simpson did do this, and his dad tells him to stay the hell away from it, which is definitely very interesting because, like I said, I do think Darden's going to get involved at some point. I just don't know what capacity. Simpson is placed in cuffs, brought into the police car, gets in, then they drive away, and that's how the episode ends. So overall, guys, I really did love this episode. Yes, I know this episode was very much just like getting information of what we saw, but hey, this was a very famous, this is very famous stuff. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people remember watching this on TV, and very interesting stuff that we saw here. A lot of stuff I do want to think about though, again, like the show's not going to tell us if Simpson killed Nicole and Goldman or not. What I do find very interesting is the way that Simpson acted about this. Very interesting stuff as to what's going on there. Is Simpson going to tell the truth? I mean, we know that he's been lying. We know he's trying to fabricate a story. What is really going to happen, with this trial? I mean, it's clear that Marcia wants to give him a trial. What's going to happen there? I'm looking forward to seeing Marcia and, Simpson's first confrontation because it's clear that Marcia does not see Simpson as a celebrity, and I'm really interested in seeing how that's going to be. Rob, I really do like this conflict between Rob and Shapiro. Shapiro clearly thinks that he is not at fault here, but do you think this is partially Shapiro's fault? I mean, the way Shapiro's been acting, giving him a plea bargain, probably wasn't the best way to deal with this, and I think that Shapiro thinks it's his way or no way. That's just kind of the guy he is, and he sees things as, we don't do things this way, we do it this way, and it's just, that's just the kind of guy he is, and I find that to be very interesting. Like I said, I really do like what they're doing with, like I said, I like they're kind of mocking the Kardashians. I think that's pretty funny as well. Darden is going to get involved. I don't know how. Like I said, I don't know how, but he's going to get involved. We'll have to see what happens there. But the way that Johnny's looking at this as Simpson being unfairly framed is very interesting. I really am interested in seeing where they're going to go with that because I'm really interested in seeing in general where the show goes from. I mean, there's a lot they can do. A lot is open. We still have yet to meet Nathan Lane's character, which I hope we meet at some point because we still have yet to meet him, and I'm sure we're going to meet him soon. We just haven't met him yet. And I know that he's probably just not involved with the story yet and that he's going to come out at some point, but we'll have to see what ends up happening there. What's going to happen with him. I like seeing Rob as well. Rob, I think, really is the character of Rob. I really am enjoying his character. You can really see he wants to care for Simpson, and I like seeing that. Gil, I really do feel bad for. He really wants this to go well, and I feel like they do want to get information, but they don't really know what to do with this. Is this trial going to be fair? Is Simpson going to give in to their demands? Is he going to agree to everything? What is he not going to agree to? I mean, it seems to Simpson like he has a certain way of doing things, and he's going to make sure what he wants gets done. I'm definitely interested in that, but overall, guys, great episode. Really am loving this show, I have to say. I mean, like I said, I just love it. They get every point down. They show how everyone feels about this situation, and I love that. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. We'll see you guys in my next show, which will be for Pretty Little Liars, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.